Fabulous. Okay, so as I say, I'm really pleased to be part of this summit and to be able to share our culture story with you all today. I'm a firm believer that culture isn't just what you say, it is absolutely what you do. And at Ideagen, we believe that you put culture in action through three things: inspiration, inclusion, and innovation. And when you do that, really great things happen. So today, I'm just going to walk you through how we inspire through authentic leadership that gets personal, how we include through co-created values and employee-led change, and how we innovate through employee passion projects that create real-world impact. I'll share our approach that has evolved what could have easily been a fragmented acquisition-grown company into a unified global family of over 2,000 colleagues. And our culture definitely has our values, ambition, adventure, and community at its heart. So you might be wondering who we are. So we are Ideagen. We're headquartered in Nottingham in the UK, but we also have offices in Florida, Sydney, Melbourne, Hyderabad in India, Kuala Lumpur, Clark in Philippines, to name just a few. We deliver software solutions to high compliance industries such as aviation, financial services, life sciences, healthcare and manufacturing. The kind of industries where getting it wrong isn't just a business problem, it's actually can cost lives. And our purpose is very much to support the safe hands and trusted voices that protect the world. We serve over 11,000 clients globally, and we employ over 2,000 colleagues. We've grown really rapidly as a company through being acquisition-led, and that brings with it incredible talent and capability. But what it also brings is the challenge of creating one unified culture from many different voices. So we asked ourselves, how do we create a culture that's not only aspirational but actionable? And then how do we move from taking that culture to living it every single day? So as April said, my name's Esther Bennett. I'm the Global Head of Colleague Experience at Ideagen. I'm really delighted that we've been recognised as a global inspiring workplace. But the judges didn't award us for just having great policies. They awarded us for what we actually do every single day. So that's what I want to share with you. Okay, so how many of you have seen culture statements that look impressive on paper, but they actually feel a bit empty in practice? Things like, we value innovation, people are our greatest asset, for example. They're really lovely words, but many organisations struggle to turn these into real aspirations, into everyday actions. You know, when you're growing through acquisitions, as we have, bringing together over 40 different companies across the US, the UK, APAC, Australia, and that challenge becomes really huge. You're not creating just one culture, but you're actually uniting dozens of different cultures. Okay, so we discovered that the answer comes down to three essential pillars, and these are inspire, include, and innovate. And they aren't separate initiatives. They're three ways that culture shows up in action every day, and they very much interconnect. So inspire is about leadership that gets genuinely personal. Include is about co-creation, not consultation, and it gives employees real ownership. And then innovate is about aligning personal passion with organisational purpose. And over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm just going to show you what happens when all three of those pillars work together. Okay, so let's start with inspire. So traditional leadership often keeps leaders at a distance. Quarterly town halls, strategy presentations, executives on stage. But we've learned that that personal connection isn't just a nice to have, it's really essential, especially as you grow into a much larger business. I'd like to introduce you to Ben, our CEO. Ben does something revolutionary. He shows up, not just virtually, but personally. Okay, so Ben travels to every Ideagen location globally. It's known as the Grand Tour. And it's not just for formal business reviews, but it's for genuine human connection. He hosts town halls, yes, but what he also does is he sits down with small groups, getting to know them, listening to their views and their perspectives, and he does meaningful activity alongside colleagues. To give you an example, during one visit to our India office recently, he participated in a community volunteering at a local school. Colleagues during the activity shared with him the challenges that young girls face in local schools, specifically lack of adequate sanitation facilities, which prevented many of them attending school regularly. Ben listened to this. He didn't commission a study or form a committee. Right there, he pledged ₹500,000 to build toilet blocks for schoolgirls. And that is leadership in action. And that happens because a leader showed up personally and responded immediately to what he heard. Here's another example. When we reached £1 billion sale milestone, Ben hosted Summerfest. It was a brilliant festival in Nottingham, and it was a celebration for colleagues and their families. People came from around the UK. We had lots of colleagues from around the globe as well, from America, Malaysia, Australia, India. And we had a whole day of activities for children, entertainment for families, and personal thank yous. Why did we do this? Because he wanted everyone who supports our work, including the partners and the children who make it possible for our colleagues to do what they do every day, to feel valued, to be part of that family and to celebrate together. It wasn't just a corporate obligation, it was a genuine expression of gratitude and community. And inspiration isn't just about the CEO. We need to inspire leadership at every level. And that's why we created our annual leadership summit that brings together 75 global leaders every year. This is not 2 days of presentations at them, but it's collaboration with them. So, for example, we do that through inspiring sessions. Leaders will share their vision for the year, but it's interactive. It's encouraging dialogue, questions, and alignment across those teams. Secondly, it's problem solving. We connect cross-functional squads to tackle real-world challenges. So not hypothetical exercises, actual problems that the business faces. And this drives innovation and breaks down those silos. And third is storytelling. So we really teach our leaders to use stories to communicate strategy, because data informs, but stories really inspire and motivate action. And here's the key. We're not just teaching leaders to tell our story. We're teaching them to help their teams see themselves in our story. And that personal connection scales far better than any processes. Okay, so our second pillar is include. And there's a crucial difference between consulting with employees and truly including them. Consultation says, tell us what you think about our new values, for example. Whereas co-creation says, help us build our values. And the difference is ownership. Ownership creates those advocates and consultation creates compliance. So I'll give you a couple of examples of what we've done in this pillar. So when we set out to define our values across 40 plus acquired companies a few years back, we asked our people who we are. We did that through surveys, through focus groups. Our employees globally helped us to identify what defines us at our best. And we refined these into 3 core values: ambition, adventure, and community. But we didn't just then announce them. We launched them through a global day of activities with storytelling, events, personal connections. We also created a behavioural framework that clearly showed colleagues what good looks like at Ideagen. And we continue to embed every day through our behaviours and our communications. Values that employees help create are values that actually live. Let's talk about where co-creation becomes quite transformational. And an example of that is through our employee resource groups. So we have 5 employee resource groups at Ideagen that emerged through colleague passion and need. And these communities bring together like-minded groups of people in a place where they can belong and truly sort of feel that they can be themselves. Our groups at Ideagen are disability, women, ethnic and culture, young professionals, and LGBTQIA+. And they're made up of about 140 colleagues who aren't just participating and finding their tribe, they're also influencing change at board level. A representative from each ERG attends our inclusion steering group alongside senior sponsors, and they directly shape our inclusion policies, drive awareness campaigns, learning sessions, and peer support. So that's real co-creation. Okay, in 2024, last year, we formalised our inclusion strategy through an experience, not just through a policy document, for example. We had an event and 600 colleagues globally participated in a full day of immersive activities. Our leadership team shared personal inclusion connections through storytelling. We had a range of guest speakers from underrepresented groups sharing their personal journeys. Everyone got stuck into practical workshops like doll drumming and visual impairment simulations, and we enjoyed food from our global heritage. One of the guest speakers, Dr. Amo Raju, who's the CEO or was the CEO at the time of Disability Direct, called it the gold standard for others to learn from, which was a lovely thing to say. We also, during that event, we asked colleagues to vote for our inclusion senior leader sponsor based on anonymous pitches made during the event. So we didn't know who they were, we just knew what their story was. And we let employees choose who would champion this work based on whose vision resonated the most. Many colleagues told us that it was the first time they really felt truly sort of seen and involved at work. And that's what happens when you move that consultation to co-creation. As a result, we're really sort of pleased to say that 85% of our colleagues feel that they can be their authentic self at work, which is a great stat to have. Okay, so co-creation also requires listening. And that's why we've created the Big Conversation, which is our engagement survey cycle. It has an annual survey, and then we have quarterly pulse surveys as well called Little Conversations. For our most recent survey, we achieved an 85% participation rate with a favourable score of 71% globally. And that's above industry benchmark. And when you consider the fact that we are acquisition-led, we're change-fueled, and we're continually evolving as a company, we absolutely consider that this is an excellent score to have. But what makes it different? We don't just collect that data. We commit to actions and we hold ourselves accountable. We act on these through, you said we did campaigns, and we show the tangible change we're making, hence why people get involved and want to participate in the survey cycle. Because when people see their input leading to change, survey participation becomes an opportunity to really shape the workplace. Okay, let's move on to the final pillar, which is innovate. Innovation happens when you align personal passion with organisational purpose. I'd like to share a story that exemplifies innovation of this kind. So this is Think Big. Think Big's our flagship education programme and a key part of our community strategy launched in 2022. Through Think Big UK, we partner with Nottingham Forest Community Trust, and our colleagues engage with schools, working with young people, particularly in the disadvantaged areas of the county, and they help them to imagine a career in tech. We take on a large number of work experience and apprentices through this scheme. And colleagues at Ideagen are able to sign up to be Think Big ambassadors. We're about to take this global, launching in India next month and also the USA in the new year, so that's really exciting. But one of the ways that we've had impact, I want to share with you now. So in Nottingham, knife crime is a serious problem. When somebody's stabbed, survival depends on accessing bleed kits quickly. But if you don't know where the nearest bleed kit is, then precious minutes are lost. Our Think Big ambassadors, working with young people in the community, identified this problem. This was their community, their concern, so they decided to do something. They designed a map-based tool to locate bleed kits throughout Nottingham. And this was a functional tool that addressed a real public health crisis. Then our apprentices, young people at the beginning of their careers, asked, how can we expand this impact? They then evolved it into a comprehensive safety app. But they also created an awareness film. And I'm so proud to say that this year, this film will be shown in school assemblies throughout Nottinghamshire, educating 18,000 young people about bleed kits, providing faster access to locations and building that familiarity with life-saving equipment. Now, that's not just corporate social responsibility, it's genuine community impact created by employees at the earliest stage of their careers, empowered by an organisation that gave them permission to turn passion into purpose. Here's an important thing to bear in mind. These pillars don't just work in isolation. The magic also happens when they interact. So if we just revisit Summerfest, I talked about that a little while ago, and we look at it through all three lenses. So if we look at the Inspire, Ben personally hosted and connected with colleagues and families. If we look at it from an Include lens, it wasn't just colleagues, their families were involved, and they're the people who make their work possible. And then if we look from an innovation point of view, we innovated celebration itself, creating an experience that strengthened relationships across global teams. So one event covered all three pillars and had a real lasting impact. Okay, so that's our three pillars for you. I now have three questions that I'd like you to reflect on relating to our framework from your situation point of view. So question one is about Inspire. So how personally connected are your leaders to every team? Are they showing up physically and emotionally or staying at a distance? Question two, Include. Are your employees co-creating your culture or are they just being consulted? Do they have real ownership over values and strategy? And finally, question three, Innovate. What employee passions could become organisational purposes? And are you creating space for people to pursue what they really care about? These questions can help you assess where you are today and also identify some opportunities to move culture from aspiration into action. So where to start? You'll all be on different sort of points in your journey, but baby steps are fine as long as you get started. And here are some simple, actionable ideas to get you started on your journey. So to inspire, have your leaders visit every site, every team location personally, and then create space for small conversations, not just large presentations, because it's amazing what comes out of, those very small round table or sort of individual discussions, especially if you're doing some other activity at the same time and you really get to connect on a personal level. Include. Co-create one major initiative with employees rather than presenting it to them. If you've got employee resource groups, then give them the real influence over policies. Or if you haven't got employee resource groups, certainly consider setting some up or at least assessing the appetite for them. Innovation. Ask employees what community issue they care about that aligns them with your purpose. I've talked about one that we're particularly proud of because we're about keeping people safe. So it aligns so closely with what we do as a business. It's really important to create that space for passion projects. And you only need to start with one. You can then build momentum and let that inspiration, inclusion and innovation drive. Okay, so I want to end by reminding you of what I said right at the beginning of this session. Culture isn't what you say, it's what you do. It's not just those values on the wall, it's the actions that people see every day. And it's not just your inclusion statement, it's whether people genuinely feel they belong and they have influence. It's not your innovation strategy, it's whether employees feel empowered to turn their passions into purpose. So culture in action starts with one authentic conversation, one genuine invitation to co-create, one employee passion that can help you turn into innovation. And, you know, I'm really proud that at Ideagen, we are supporting the safe hands and trusted voices that protect the world by creating a culture where over 2,000 colleagues across the globe feel inspired, included, and empowered to innovate. So what could your culture in action look like? So thank you so much for listening to that. I'd obviously love to take questions if there are any now, or for anybody who's listening afterwards, then obviously feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, etc. And I'd love to continue the conversation and hopefully empower others to do similar initiatives.
Thank you, Esther. That was so inspiring. I think everyone would agree there's no question why your Inspiring Workplace Awards are so well deserved. Some incredible takeaways there. Lots of things that massively relate to, obviously, in terms of my own beliefs around culture and people. But I think the theme that seems to keep coming across today or this afternoon so far is around co-creation and how important that is. And I really like the strap line, simple, but, you know, co-creation over consultation, really powerful takeaway. Can I ask, Esther, like, at what point did our Ideagen change to that ethos, or has it always been that way, or is it something that you kind of realised you needed to change the approach?
No, we certainly haven't changed. We've grown, and we've had to bring other, you know, subcultures, different cultures, you know, along the journey. But our CEO that I introduced earlier, Ben Dorks, is, you know, he's a very humble guy from humble beginnings, and right from the minute he was CEO, you know, his values sort of shone through. You know, community has always been hugely important to him, and you know, as a result of that, all of our exec team, you know, live and breathe our values every day. So we're really, really lucky that I think they've been in us right from the beginning. I think it's been more about how we create that narrative and take everybody on the journey as we grow into such a large company. You know, these things were in effect when we just had, you know, a couple of hundred people. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's more about the other people coming along that journey and really understanding why this is so important. But no, it's not something that's particularly, you know, changed over time. It's just developed into a global ethos.
Yeah, it's really hard to preserve. You know, a similar journey to yourselves, Cooper Parry, have been on in terms of size and scale, growth through acquisition, bringing in new cultures and kind of making that culture live. So no, what an incredible story. I mean, particularly the bleed kits. I mean, that was just, you know, made me quite emotional when you talked about that, and I could hear the pride in your voice too, understandably.
It's just lovely to make that space for you know, people to innovate, but not necessarily just around things that are work related and are going to benefit the actual business. It's more about that community side of it, and yeah, really empowering people to think and be free to create.
Yeah, great. I think we've got a question here, which is, says, thank you, Esther. What a great culture you've all built at Ideagen, and Think Big is an amazing initiative. How do you ensure the co-creation of culture is a continuous process and not a one-off? Which is a very good question.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're always trying new things and involving people as much as we possibly can. I mean, the survey really helps. We have this regular survey, and we we act on that feedback and we act on suggestions. I mean, we've got an amazing innovation program at the moment called Ignite, and we just ran a competition called Spark Tank where we invited, for example, ideas from around the business. Could be anything from something really small to something really big, and we had over 5,000 entries, which we're working through all of the time. So
wow.
we feel like we've got this continual flow of brilliant ideas coming through. And of course, once we amplify some ideas, it gets everybody, everybody's creative juices going.
Yeah.
And we also run regular hackathons as well. We have a lot of product developers, and they absolutely jump on this. We have real work related problems, and we get everybody in a room and teams sort of compete against each other to solve problems. So we're always creating new ways of keeping that co-creation going, and giving people permission. I think that's really important. We work really hard, people are really busy, but actually taking time out to take a step back and think about how we can do things better, and keeping that kind of continuous culture of, you can try things, you can make mistakes, it's absolutely fine. Yeah. We encourage it.
It sounds like Ben's a great role model as well in terms of taking that time out to do things that are not just about hitting the numbers and having real purpose, and through role modeling that leadership in action, the words you used, it creates that safe environment for people to feel they can do the same too. So no, thank you so much for your time, Esther, and we should definitely meet for coffee and chat more about ideas.
Definitely.
It's great listening to the story, very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you so much.